Yo, I swear with this phone, you can take a picture of literally anything and it will look stylized and filmic. Like real talk, I went around my house taking pictures of random things and it looks like what I would see on a professional photographer's, Instagram page. Obviously not to the same level, but it definitely has those similar vibes, like the colors, the contrast, the moodiness. This camera system is pretty cool, but I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'll come back to this later. So cameras aside, what is the software like? What does it have to offer in terms of that? Truthfully, Xiaomi is not known for its software, but I think what they offer within HyperOS is pretty good nowadays. As usual, the animations are fast and smooth, and there's a good amount of extra features. Multitasking isn't super amazing on this device, but it has the basic abilities to do split screen and 2 floating windows at the same time. You can also access your floating windows just by swiping and holding to the top right from any app that you're in. The home screen customization is good with built-in editing mode that allows you to do multiple things without leaving this mode. You can select multiple apps to either move them across your home screens or you can remove them. Removing them gives this fun animation and haptic feedback as well. You also have the sidebar that allows you to quickly open floating windows, and depending on what apps you open the sidebar in, you get additional options. During video playback, the sidebar allows you to change the way your screen looks with different filters and color settings. You can also adjust your audio settings and more. And when you're gaming, you have many options to alter your experience to your liking. Overall, the sidebar is not something that we haven't seen before, but it is a nice addition to the software. You also have something called the assistive ball, which allows you to have 5 apps as a shortcut anywhere on your phone. Again, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is still nice to have. The lock screen customization is also really good and fun. There's plenty of options for customizing text, and you can make it very stylized and specific to you. It also applies to the always on display as well. One of my favorite features that I've been seeing more and more on Android devices is the ability to control individual app volumes, and I'm happy to say that this feature is present on this phone. It's a small but very impactful feature for someone like me who often uses multiple apps or listens to music or a podcast while playing games. Display out functionality and potential desktop modes are something that I always test with newer phones, and sadly this phone does not have a functional desktop mode, but it does have display out, which is good to see. It also supports external microphones in the camera app, which not all phones do, and if they do, sometimes the audio doesn't sound that good. You're also able to do basic things like customize your icons, system font, status bar, color themes, and home screen animations. Other than these things mentioned here, there's not too much more to the software. It's definitely not a stock OS experience, but it is still very clean and there's not too much bloat and too much random things throughout the software. If anything, it's kind of like stock OS, but a few extra added features, which is always appreciated. It doesn't really go crazy with AI like Google or Samsung or Apple, but honestly, I'm not someone who uses AI anyways, so that doesn't really matter to me. But you still have Circle to search here if that's something you're interested in. Hardware for most smartphones has been pretty top tier for the last few years. This phone is no exception and it still feels really nice in the hand. I personally enjoy the vegan leather material and even the design elements that make it look like a nostalgic point and shoot camera. Even just looking here, it fits right in with a bunch of random cameras that I have. Although Xiaomi has done a good job at making this device look good with the camera bump, the ergonomics still suck in my opinion. Playing games or doing anything in a horizontal orientation feels pretty uncomfortable compared to other smartphones like iPhones or Samsung devices. I know most phones are going in this direction with huge camera modules, but they're not really ergonomic friendly usually for some people. I do understand that majority of people probably don't play smartphone games or do things in landscape orientation, but it's still something to note. I also want to say that you can definitely get used to this form factor even if it's uncomfortable, but I just wish it was a little bit better. Despite all that, the hardware and design are really nice to hold normally and to look at. Speaking of looking at things, the screen is also a pleasure and feels really good to use. Even with the slight curve of the bezels, it actually feels kind of ergonomic in that sense. Very bright with vivid colors, supposedly good durability that I personally can't test, and super fast wired charging and wireless charging. This is top tier hardware, but how is the everyday experience? When you wake up and take your phone off the charger, the goal is not to have to charge it again for the rest of the day. I can tell you that this phone delivers on that, and even though it doesn't have the 6,000 milliamp battery like the Chinese version of it, you still have a good experience that can last you a whole day. You might experience some battery drain on the first day or even the first couple of days, but once the optimization kicks in, the battery is really good. Moving on to actually using it every day, the ergonomics and vertical orientation are really good because of the rounded edges like I said, and the soft feel of the materials also makes it nice to hold. The phone's weight is also nice to have at 226 grams with the specific version of the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. I think it's a really good weight for an Ultra phone and considering all that it has to offer. Drawing from what I said earlier about the software, I have no problems using this phone as a daily driver. It has most things I need. It runs fast, it doesn't lag, it has great performance in gaming, and it has decent video editing capabilities. And on top of all that, it has top tier customization and can do full screen always on display. Combine that with the camera experience and you get a truly flagship phone that delivers on the daily on all levels. But now let's actually switch the lens and take a glimpse into the camera experience with this phone. So first things first, you have this camera grip, this photography kit that you probably have seen and probably heard about if you looked into this phone. And when you put it on, the question is it a phone or is it a camera? You tell me. When you get this optional photography kit for your 15 Ultra, it basically morphs into a point and shoot camera. The camera grip allows you to control your zoom, your exposure, you can record video quickly, and it also has a 2-stop shutter button. This means that you can slightly press the button down to lock your focus and exposure before actually taking the image. The camera grip goes a little bit further than that with a built-in battery pack that allows you to charge your phone a bit, giving you an hour or two more of extra usage, maybe even more depending on your use case. It also has USB-C pass-through, so you can still plug your phone in while you have the camera case on if that's something of concern. The coolest thing about the camera kit is how you can just slide the grip right off when you need to use the phone by itself, and the rest of the body becomes a nice case that actually feels pretty good and is protective of the phone. Even still, Xiaomi missed something big when designing this photography kit. In my opinion, they forgot to put a tripod mount at the bottom of the grip and also a cold shoe mount on the top. These two additions would have made this phone so much better to use as a camera. For instance, there was a time where I was taking pictures outside in the forest and I couldn't put the phone on my tripod mount because it was too big inside the camera case. So basically it went on the tripod mount, but the distance between the camera and the USB-C port and how far the grip has to come onto the phone, it makes the grip slightly be out of the USB-C port and it just doesn't work. So although it looks like it's on the tripod mount properly, the grip is not connected to the phone at all. So I actually had to take it off and use the phone by itself. This moment immediately took me out of the magical experience of turning my smartphone into a camera, and it was kind of a letdown. Still, the camera experience is something worth talking about, so let's actually dive into the cameras. With this phone, there's no megapixel shortage, with all the lenses being 50 megapixels and up, aside from the 32 megapixel selfie camera. All cameras can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS, and the main camera can do 4K 120. This phone has the ability to shoot in log as well for those that care about that. But all that stuff aside, the camera experience on this phone is really interesting. For the most part, it's very easy in my opinion to get a good image out of this phone without having to really think, but it's not perfect. The phone has a bunch of decent looking color profiles that you can choose from, and I actually prefer to shoot in one when usually I don't even touch these things at all on smartphones. The filter is called Teal Mist, and I've been using that a lot when I had this phone. For the sake of making this video and future videos, I had to even force myself to turn off that filter just so that I can have normal images to compare with other phones and stuff like that. That's how much I really enjoyed the filter. It's just such a cool vibe. But speaking about vibe and aesthetic, I recognize that the processing style of this phone's camera might not be for everybody. It's very moody, contrasty, and cold, but I love all those things. Sometimes it can be a bit too much, just like every smartphone camera, but I do enjoy the results that you get from this phone usually. The zoom camera on this phone is actually insane and probably the thing you're going to be messing around with the most. It actually has two really good zoom cameras, but the star of the show is this 200 megapixel 4.3x periscope camera. It has a sensor size that's almost as big as other phones' main cameras. If you don't understand the significance of that, usually the main camera on smartphones, the 1x camera, is the biggest and best camera on a smartphone. On this phone, I truly believe that the best camera is this ultra zoom camera. But going back to when I said this phone's camera system isn't perfect, here's what I meant. The shutter speed is a bit slow. If you're trying to capture images of a moving subject such as a child or a pet, there's a good chance that a couple of the shots will come out blurry. I don't think it's way worse than other smartphones in this area, but I can definitely see the average user complaining about this issue. You do have many options like manual mode to adjust the shutter speed and stuff like that, and just setting up a shot beforehand, but most people just want something they can pull out of their pocket and shoot with. This phone can definitely do that in most situations, but it's definitely not the best at that. especially when the light is a little bit lower. The other issue that you might encounter is that the photos can be overly processed, which I mentioned before. Sometimes you don't need the algorithms to do so much, especially when the lighting situation is good. And even in low light with such huge camera sensors, these phones don't need to do as much as they do. However, despite those flaws, this camera system is really good and it has a lot of potential for people who like to go deeper with their smartphone cameras. I truly believe that you can get some professional looking results out of these cameras, and the fact that it has great cameras across multiple focal lengths makes it super versatile. From ultra wide to 4.3x, and then you can even go further because the hardware is so good. You can crop in digitally and still have great looking images up to probably even 15x. The video quality is also really good and enjoyable. I think it stacks up really well. The stabilization is good. And yeah, this camera system overall is probably an A+ camera system in my eyes. On the camera? Wait, show it again. Wow. Yeah. Which rocks do you have?
Show the camera the rocks.
But to bring it back, this phone has been fun to use and it got me excited genuinely, which is pretty rare nowadays when you consider that normal smartphones have been pretty boring for the last couple years in my opinion. To summarize my experience with the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, this phone is an all-around beast that takes smartphone photography to another level. It's not perfect and it doesn't have all the software features, but it does have a lot to offer in many areas. Let me know in the comments below if the 15 Ultra captured your heart with its design and experience. Until next video, we're out. Peace.